with a strong humans are special theme, deep emotion, and high stakes in a mix of sci-fi and fantasy elements. Here we go. She brought her sick albino dragon mother, riddled with millions of barnacles. The girl was no more than 17 when she stumbled into the human outpost on Varian Prime, carrying a creature that should have been impossible to carry at all. It was a dragon, not the fire-breathing myths of Earth, but a real, living, alien creature. Its body shimmered with pale, iridescent scales the color of moonlight on ice. Huge wings dragged across the scorched dirt behind it. Its eyes, once fierce and blazing, were dull and glassy now. And its entire body, every scale, every ridge, was riddled with barnacles. Millions of them. The creatures pulsed and writhed, a carpet of parasitic growth that looked alive, clinging to the dragon's flesh like a second, writhing skin. The girl's legs trembled as she approached the gates. "Help her," she whispered hoarsely. "Please help my mother." The guards froze. Because despite the monster behind her, despite the overwhelming stench of decay and alien disease, despite the glint of half-healed burns along its wings, there was no mistaking what this was. An albino broodmother, the largest, rarest, most feared of her kind. And this child had brought her here for help. Humanity had seen dragons before. Varian Prime was not Earth. It was one of dozens of frontier colonies where humans had learned, through bitter, bloody wars, that dragons ruled the skies. 3 years ago, the first settlers watched in awe as silver-winged titans swooped down and set entire forests ablaze. The colonists called in the Marines. The Marines called in the fleet. And then the dragons surprised them all. They didn't attack cities. They didn't strike unless provoked. They were protecting something. Scientists discovered vast nesting grounds, eggs buried in volcanic soil rich with rare minerals. The dragons were monsters. They were parents. The war ended the day a human medic pulled a dying hatchling from the wreckage of a mining blast zone, and its colossal mother didn't kill him. It only stared, eyes filled with a raw, alien intelligence. From that day on, humanity began to learn. Dragons were people too. Different. Dangerous. But people. And now one of their greatest, most terrifying queens was dying at humanity's doorstep. The girl's name was Kaylin. She barely spoke English, only the rough trade pidgin used in border settlements. Through broken words and desperate gestures, the medics learned fragments of the story. Her mother had fallen ill months ago, a creeping sickness from the black coasts of the Western Sea. First a few barnacles, then dozens, then thousands. They spread like living tumors, sealing her scales, drinking her blood, infesting her wings until she could no longer fly. Kaylin had watched whole villages burn when other dragons, smelling weakness, had turned on the ailing queen. Predators circled the sick. The albino broodmother had fought them off for weeks, but she was dying. And Kaylin, her half-human daughter, had dragged her across 200 miles of ash plains to the only people with the science, and maybe the mercy, to help. The humans stared at the colossal creature slumped across their landing pads. The barnacles twitched and shuddered, releasing spores that glittered in the wind. It looked hopeless. Humanity tried anyway. Dr. Marcus Ellery had once been a xenobiologist on Earth. He'd studied coral reefs, parasitic crustaceans, even the fungal plagues that wiped out whole amphibian species. But nothing on Earth had prepared him for this. "We can't just cut them off," one of the surgeons muttered, watching the dragon's flank rise and fall in labored breaths. They've fused into the muscle layers, arteries. If we rip them out, she'll bleed to death. And if we don't, Marcus said grimly, the infection reaches her heart in a week. The albino broodmother cracked open one massive eye. It focused on Marcus. Not the soldiers. Not the medics. Just him. And somehow, deep in his chest, Marcus felt the weight of a mother's plea. Save me. For her. His gaze flicked to Kaelin, kneeling beside her mother's snout, clutching pale scales between tiny fingers. Marcus made his choice. Prep the isolation ward, he ordered. We're operating. The fight for her life. They used 3 dropships welded into a single surgical bay. Dozens of drones hovered above the broodmother's body, scanning, cutting, sterilizing. Marcus directed teams like a battlefield commander. The barnacles weren't just parasites, they were colony organism, each node connected by fibrous roots threaded through muscle and bone. A single wrong incision could rupture a dozen arteries. But humans had something dragons didn't. Nanofiber scalpels. Antiseptic foam. Gene sequencing AI that mapped every foreign cell in real time. For 72 straight hours they cut. One by one, the barnacles came off. Some were the size of a man's fist. Others as large as barrels. Each time the brood mother shuddered in pain, Kaelin sang to her in a trembling voice. Deep, thrumming notes that resonated through the hull like whale song. The dragon calmed. Marcus didn't know if it was anesthesia or love. Maybe both. The attack. On the 4th night, the predators came. Black-winged shapes blotted out the moons, lesser dragons, smelling blood. The outpost's railguns lit the sky, but there were too many. The albino broodmother, half-conscious on the landing pad, tried to rise, and collapsed with a roar of fury and pain. Kaelin screamed. And humanity, fragile, overextended humanity, held the line. Exosuits met dragon fire in midair. Combat drones wove between snapping jaws. A single marine leapt from a burning tower straight onto a dragon's back, driving a plasma spear through its skull before both crashed in flames. Marcus never stopped cutting. Hold them, he bellowed over comms. I'm not losing her now. Dawn. When the sun rose over Varian Prime, the ground was littered with the bodies of lesser dragons. And the albino broodmother still lived. The last of the barnacles lay in smoking heaps, sterilized by fire. She was weak. Scarred. But breathing steady now. Alive. Kaelin hadn't left her side once. The gift. 2 days later, the broodmother finally rose. Slowly, painfully. But when she spread her wings, the outpost fell silent. They gleamed white as glaciers under the sun. She turned to Marcus, to the soldiers, to the people who had fought for her when her own kind had not. And she bowed. The largest, proudest predator on Varian Prime lowered her massive head to the ground before a handful of exhausted humans. Then she spoke. Not in words, but in a thunderous, resonant growl that every translator drone struggled to parse. Debt owed. Kaelin translated the rest, tears streaking her ash-stained face. My mother says your sky is ours now. No dragon will harm your people again. This we swear. And from that day on, the skies of Varian Prime belonged to humanity and dragonkind together. Because when the mightiest of them all had fallen, only humans had fought to lift her back up.